Hey everyone, Mr. Chaffin here. Today we are going to get underway with our revolutionary era. And to start things off, we have to talk about, what are the causes of the revolution? And so we're going to have several videos that go over the different causes. And what we're going to start with today is not so much like a single event that caused the American Revolution, but it's more like an underlying issue. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is a big, long, giant word with lots of syllables, but it has, a pretty simple meaning that we'll get to at the end of the lesson today. All right, so you should hopefully recognize some other sounds in the word mercantilism. Maybe words like merchant or merchandise. Okay, so hopefully we're following or tracking along that thought process because mercantilism is an economic system, and it's a very specific type of economic system that only benefits the mother country. All right, so we've been talking about Great Britain or England, and then the 13 colonies, and sort of this relationship that they had back and forth. Well, England or Great Britain is the mother country, and of course the colonies are the colonies of Great Britain. Okay, so mercantilism is all about this, and so there's a few basic ideas that go along with it. So we'll sort of set up those ideas, then we'll talk about how we can describe mercantilism, and then at the end there's a few rules, if you were, that kind of follow this idea of mercantilism. All right, so first and foremost, mercantilism is all about imports and exports. Okay, so let's define a couple terms real quick. An import is an item that a country brings in, so they have to pay another country to import certain items. And then exports are items or manufactured goods that a country sends out. So they make money off of exports and they have to pay for imports. And so the first idea of mercantilism is you want to have more exports than you do imports. You want to have what's called a surplus of exports. So when you have a surplus of something, that means you have more of it. And so imports and exports are very important because England, Great Britain, they're the ones that are exporting everything out to the world and really out to the colonies as well to sell all these manufactured goods back to the colonies. And so we talked about how the 13 colonies would send over, cash crops and raw materials. Things like lumber and tobacco are great examples of this. So they would send these raw materials over to Great Britain, and then Great Britain would turn around and create some sort of manufactured good out of those, and then sell them right back to the colonies at a higher price than what the colonies could have made these things for themselves. And so everything about mercantilism benefits the mother country. Nothing about mercantilism benefits the colonies. Okay, so it's set up that way on purpose because mercantilism is this idea that if a mother country has a greater number of exports than it does imports, like that's win number one. Win number two is it's all about collecting. It's all about collecting wealth and natural resources, including, and maybe most importantly, precious metals and gold and these different things that have like extravagant value. Okay, so mercantilism sort of comes at us. It kind of sets up this idea of the mother country being like a queen. And so we talk about this political cartoon that portrays the mother country as a queen, and she's sitting at this table, and she's all prim and proper, and of course she's a bit plump, she's a bit hefty, she's a bit let's just say healthy in that way, and it shows because everything is given to her, everything is brought to her. And then you look at the maids or the servants in the political cartoon, and of course they're labeled as the colonies, so it's very obvious the dynamic between mother country and colony. The mother country is living large. The mother country is getting fat off of all of the things that the colonies are sending to her. Okay, so it's a very kind of easy way to see the dynamic between the two and who's benefiting and who is not benefiting. Okay, and so when we consider mercantilism, like you have to really get into this idea that it's only benefiting the mother country. Okay, so that's a huge takeaway from today. Every consequence, every effect of mercantilism on the colonies is bad, is negative. They're basically being used, if you want to think of it that way. They're being kind of used and abused only for their raw materials and their cash crops, because the mother country has the ability to buy those raw materials and cash crops for extremely cheap. Okay. And so we kind of get into some rules of mercantilism. This is one of our final ideas here. Mercantilism has a few rules that had to be obeyed in order for it to work. And one of the first rules is that the colonies had to, like, I make a big emphasis on this, they had to sell their raw materials to their mother country. So if you're in the 13 colonies, if you're an English colonist, you had to send your raw materials or your cash crops back over to England for sale, okay? You didn't have the option to trade or sell them to any other foreign country, because that would be showing preference to another mother country over your own. It's sort of like a child showing preference to another parent, or another set of parents, really, than their own, even though their own parents are treating them kind of poorly in our example here. So the mother country of England is treating her own countries really badly. Okay, so the rule number one is you had to sell your raw materials to your mother country. Rule number two is you had to, notice, had to buy back the manufactured goods from your mother country. And so your mother country really had the ability to charge kind of whatever they wanted in terms of price with their manufactured goods. So this is everything from furniture and porcelain and guns and lead and paint, all the way up to a lot of the famous examples we get in the American Revolution with things like tea, all right? So tea is going to be heavily taxed throughout this time period, and eventually there's going to even be a dispute over the idea of the mother country being able to have a monopoly on tea. And we'll talk about that later in this unit with the Boston Tea Party. But, mercantilism really is this idea that the colonies were sort of this built-in market for the mother country to sell back its products to. And they had to buy them because they didn't have any other choice to import goods from other countries. Even though they could probably get them for a lot cheaper, they may even be better products, but they didn't have a choice because they're the colonies and the mother country is above them. Okay, so the mother country is always supreme. And then rule number three is that you couldn't trade with any other country. All right. So, trade with other countries was ruled out because, like I said, you would be showing favoritism. You would be showing a preference for this other mother country that wasn't your own. And so you'd kind of be shunning and despising your own mother country, which was a big no-no back then because, the whole point of having colonies, like it all comes down to this. The whole point of having colonies for a mother country was to grow their wealth. All right. It was to grow their empire. Okay. And so if you have your colonies trading with another mother country, well, that sort of does away with the purpose of having colonies to begin with. Okay. So let's just kind of all boil it down to a few basic things. Mercantilism is where you want to have more exports than you do imports. It only benefits the mother country. It actually kind of treats the colonies like they're servants or maids, if you will. To the mother country. They exist to serve the mother country only, and you had to trade your raw materials with your mother country. You had to buy back manufactured goods from your mother country, and three, you could not trade with any other foreign country, which was really terrible, actually. You can see why this is not like a single event that caused the revolution. This is like the economic system underlying everything that kind of just eventually got on the nerves of the colonists because they had hear me on this, like they had no economic freedom, okay? So mercantilism is where the colonies just didn't have any economic freedom. So that is like this underlying big picture reason why the American Revolution began. So this mercantilism is a cause of the American Revolution. If you have any questions about this, certainly send me an email, send me a message in Google Classroom. I'll get everything worked out for you. Until next time, really this leads into another big issue, and we'll talk about it in the next video, but tons of causes of the American Revolution, and this is just sort of the first big one that we're going to talk about. All right. We'll talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.